All right, Algebra 2, we are talking about synthetic division today. But before we do that, I want to show you kind of why what we're doing to get to where we're going to end up. So in this case, these first two examples, this is kind of why we're doing synthetic division, so we can end up finding the zeros of any polynomial. So in the past, we've had polynomials or quadratics in this case, where our parabola crossed twice. So we're trying to figure out where those zeros are. Well, in this chapter, it's not just twice sometimes. Okay, so you might have a parabola or a polynomial that crosses more than once. So we've got to be able to find all of those zeros. Sometimes 4, sometimes 2, sometimes none. Just kind of depends on the polynomial. So in this first example, this is kind of a throwback to what we talked about originally with a quadratic here. So 0 equals x squared minus 5x plus 6. You set the y equal to 0 and go ahead and factor. So in this case, we've got what two factors of 6 give us negative 5. So if you look through your factors of 6, we've got 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Well, 2 and 3 give us 5, but since it's a negative 5, we want negative 2 and negative 3. And so it's 0 equals x minus 2 and x minus 3. And so since those two are factors, we set both of those equal to 0 and get our two answers. So x minus 2 equals 0, x equals positive 2, x minus 3 equals 0, which is going to be x equals 3. And there's our two answers. Okay. So in this case, this is a good example of where it's not just two answers, it's 3. But lucky for us, it's already factored, so we can just set those equal to 0 again. So x plus 2 equals 0, x minus 1 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. And we solve. So subtract 2, x equals negative 2. Add 1, x equals 1. Add 3, x equals 3. And there's our three answers. Okay. So if we want to kind of divide this polynomial by a factor, we can use what's called synthetic division. Okay. So here's how that works. Okay. So first of all, if this is our dividend, I've got 1, 3, and negative 40 are the coefficients. So it says, first step, write the coefficients in that descending order. So it's 1, 3, and negative 40. And we also need to know what our factor is, or what we're dividing by. Okay, so in this case, we're going to take whatever we're dividing by. If it's linear, we can say, okay, x minus 5 equals 0. Get x by itself, x equals 5. So 5 is the number that we're going to be using each time. Okay? So I've got 1, 3, and 5, 1, 3, negative 40. And we're going to bring the first leading coefficient. It says, step 1 we already did. Bring down the leading coefficient, multiply that leading coefficient by the divisor. So I'm going to bring down the 1 here. And then I'm going to multiply this times this. 1 times 5. Oops, hold on a second. 1 times 5 is 5. And so that goes here. And then I add down. So step 3, add down. So 3 plus 5 is 8. Okay, 3 plus 5 is 8. And then I repeat. So 8 times 5 is 40. And then I add down again. Okay, so the very last term is going to be what is called your remainder. So you've kind of divided before and you've had a remainder. That last number is your remainder. So in this case, it's a remainder of 0. Okay, so it says put the variables back into an answer. Well, if this is a remainder, this is not part of our answer because 0 doesn't matter. This is our constant, and then you just kind of go up from there. So 8, and then the next one up from a constant is x to the first, so 1x to the first. And x plus 8 would be our answer. Okay. So since this is a remainder, that means that x plus 8, okay, remainder of 0 means x plus 8 is a factor of that polynomial. Okay. That's it. Okay, so again, this is going to make a lot more sense once we get some more examples here. But you got to go step by step here. So let's do it again. I've got 2, so the coefficients 2, 3, -4, and 15. Nothing's missing, so it's 2, 3, -4, and 15. Bring down the first one to be 2, and then I have this one out here. So again, since it's x plus 2, I solve, and that's x equals -2. So -2 goes in there. And now I go. So again, step 2. Step 2, bring down that, multiply. So 2 times -2 is -4. Add down, that's -1. Let's go again. -1 times -2 is +2. Add down, that's -2. And now multiply one more time. -2 times -2 is +4. So +4 goes right here. Add down, that's 19. Since that's the last one, that is my remainder. Okay? So if this -2 is my constant, that means it's -1x right here, and then this is +2x squared. So I go up each time from the constant. Constant x squared, and if it kept going, it would be x to the third, x to the fourth, and so on. So there's my answer. But since we have a remainder, now I go ahead and add my remainder to it, 19 over x plus 2. Because there was a remainder, I have to go ahead and add that into my answer. And since it's a 19, not 0, that means that x plus 2 is not a factor. Okay? Or in this case, we could have said x minus 5. X minus 5 was not a factor. Or was a factor. Okay? So either way. All right? So hopefully that's making a little more sense. Let's go ahead and look at a couple more examples here. This time we have a couple missing. So I've got 6. I've got -8. We're missing x squared. So I need 0 for the x squared. Then I have 12 and -14. Bring down the leading coefficient of 6. And then up here I have, it's going to be +2 because x minus 2 equals 0. Add 2. So 2 is going to be my number that I'm multiplying by each time. And now we're ready to go. So multiply to the number 2. So 6 times 2 is 12. Add down, -8 plus 2, plus 12 is 4. Multiply. 4 times 8 is, 4 times 2 is 8. 0 plus 8 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Add those together, we get 28. 28 times 2 is 56. Add down, this is the last one, so this is going to be my remainder of 42. And so 28 is my constant, 8x, 4x squared, and 6x to the third. And so my remainder is 42 over, what was the divisor? X minus 2. And there's my final answer. So again, what that means is, since it's a remainder of 42, x minus 2 is not a factor or is not a 0. Okay? So let's do these last two real quick. So no missing numbers this time. So I've got 1, -3, -4, and 12. This is supposed to say divide by, but that's going to be -2 for my number. Bring down the leading coefficient of 1, and we're ready to go. So I'm going 1 times -2 is -2. Add down, that's -5. Negative times negative is +10. Add down, that's 6. 6 times -2 is -12. That's 0. So this time we have a remainder of 0. So I've got 6, -5x, and +1x squared. There's my answer. No remainder, which means x plus 2 is a factor. Okay. There we go. Oops, not done yet. And then the last one, we've got 1 missing here. So 4b to the 4th, we're missing the b to the cubed. So that's 0, then -17, then 14, then -3. We're going to have a fraction this time. So 2b minus 3 equals 0. Add 3 to both sides. You get 2b equals 3. Divide by 2. b equals 3 over 2, or 1.5. But that doesn't change a thing, and we're still going to do everything the same way. Bring down the leading coefficient. Just this time we have a fraction to deal with. So 4 times 3 over 2. That's going to end up being 6. Add down, that's 6. 6 times 3 over 2, that's going to end up being 9. Add down, that's -8. -8 times 3 over 2, that's going to end up being -12. Add down, that's 2. And then 2 times 3 over 2 ends up being 3, which just so happens to be 0. No remainder. So that tells us that 2b minus 3 is a factor. Okay. And it tells us our answer is going to be 2, -8x, +6x squared, 4x cubed. And so just make sure you've got pluses and minus between, and there we go. That's our final answer. So we're going to work on this, practice this some more this week, and we're going to maybe look at long division, but synthetic division makes things a little easier for us. Okay, so we'll talk about this some more today and tomorrow. Peace.